nanny, qualified Norland nanny with over 10 years experience and mother to 2 under 2. Welcome to my Back to Basics series, with this one being all about cluster feeding. Cluster feeding is completely normal. I just want to start it there. You can't necessarily, or you don't want to necessarily, train it out of a little one until they're looking at about 4 or 5 plus months. Cluster feeding refers to a child taking more feeds than they would normally. So if your child quite often has maybe a regular routine, or they put themselves into the routine of eating every hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, however much that gap may be, depending on how they're feeding and their age, and suddenly that becomes a lot closer. Now, what you generally find is this happens in the afternoons or evenings because they're stocking up ahead of being ready for the night. Now, the reason we don't really necessarily want to train this out of them is because this is teaching them to fill up their bellies properly so that they can go for longer stretches at night. So I promise there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, what can you do? I've just told you the bad news being that you shouldn't fix it. You couldn't train it out of them right now, but what can you do? So you really want to support yourself. So whether your child is breastfeeding, bottle feeding, formula, breast milk, does not make a difference. What really makes the difference is you as the parent or caregiver having the support to be able to sustain these feeds. So in some situations, if you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, that would mean having a comfy chair, having a comfy extra pillow to make sure that you're supported, having something under your back, under your arm or your shoulder, so that baby is supported and you're not taking too much weight, because those back-to-back feeds can get exhausting. Making sure you have hydration and food around you. As much as this may sound crazy, but you can't always just get up between a feed and sort of run and eat something. Sometimes, don't know about you, but in the middle of a feed, hunger suddenly kicks in or your thirst kicks in, and you don't want to be stuck without having to be able to resolve that. Ensuring that you get your rest. I know everyone says rest when the baby rests. Okay, let's face it, that's not that practical. It's not that easy. But being able to rest in between, especially if you're breastfeeding, your nipples, your boobs, your breasts may get sore. So being able to maybe have a shower, have a bath, go and put some silverettes onto your nipples or some cream, just to make sure from a barrier standpoint they're as supported as possible. But equally ensuring that you don't just go off and do something strenuous afterwards. I think a lot of people underestimate how much of a toll feeding is general, whether you're breastfeeding or formula feeding, it makes no difference, but how much of a toll just that element of the emotional, physical, psychological, all of those things are being triggered, especially when you're back-to-back feeding. Also recognizing that this is a moment, this is a milestone of moment in time, and it will pass. If it doesn't, and you feel that you've got too far into this and it's not breaking or it's not getting better, feel free to message me and we can chat that through. But it does get easier. With that being said, what are the signs to look for if you think something's not quite right? So, a couple of examples. Now, I'm not a medical professional, but I would say a couple of things just that I would call as a high alert to myself, to the families I work for. If your child is consistently eating, but they are not, and by eating obviously I mean milk, but they are not necessarily gaining the adequate weight, that would be something, or gaining weight full stop, that would be something I would be concerned about. If your child is having all that milk, but they are not having wet diapers, again, something I would be concerned about. If your child is in a position where they are getting high temperatures, or maybe there is something else going on that you can see that they're just not quite right, or you just don't think that what's going on is normal, please feel free to chat to your pediatrician or reach out. Now, I'm not a medical professional, but I can run by some sort of norms and expectations that maybe could save you a trip. So, summarize. Cluster feeding is completely normal. You've got it. You can do it. If you need some advice on how to best support yourself through cluster feeding, have a look through some of my other social media channels where I put images and different ways to support you through those moments. And hopefully this phase will pass, but equally take a moment to enjoy it and look how amazing